Fantastic. Okay, so welcome, Laura. We are starting the webinar and I'm allow participants to log in and before I introduce you. So let's see, because people are joining. So I'll give us a few minutes, and it's always my favorite moment because I see people's name dropping and I like to see that. Well, people that I work, speak, and connect every day. So I'm going to be, and this is a registered webinar, so there will be a recording and everybody will have access and they'll receive it either tonight or tomorrow morning. So I wanted to thank you, and we're going to let participants join in. And I'm going to start introducing you, Laura. Laura and I met through the acquaintance of Astromazure participants, Will Forrester, that I have to thank, because I met Laura the first time and it was an immediate crush because we were saying having an hour with Laura is like having an espresso. You are all energized. You are not only energized, but you are inspired. And so having this double, where it's action and wisdom at the same time is very, very appealing to me. So Laura is obviously a business leader who has an amazing track record, having worked with some of the most iconic brands, Ralph Lauren and Burberry being some of them. And she is also an advisory board member on the Pachamama Alliance and others. She's a book writer with the ABCs of Conscious Capitalism, and has founded Wise Partners with two other wise women. And it's Wise, W-H-Y-Z. And we have already comments of, I know Laura and totally agree. So it must be the purpose and energy. And I'm going to let Laura talk a little bit about what is conscious capitalism first, because I think it's a really fantastic concept that we all need to embrace anew because it's here to stay and it is the future. So you're in the early adopters if you're there. But after that, I will switch on what Laura does, how she does it, and why she does it. And then we can go even deeper in what conscious capitalism is, because I think that Laura embodies what conscious capitalism is. So I want us all to understand what is her work and how she does it. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you, and what a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much, Agathe.
Welcome. So I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself in a few minutes for that, our audience who don't know you. How would they get a first introduction to you of what you do?
Well, clearly, I'm sitting here as a business female. So I'm a woman in business, or somebody who likes to say that I've really been indoctrinated by what I call the business of fashion. I am in the fashion business. Mm-hmm. I believe that my industry, the fashion industry, is a great industry, but it is also an industry with problems. So I began to realize that I was working against finite resources at Burberry, and then it became clearer at Ralph Lauren. So over a period of trial and error and just looking out there, I discovered something called conscious capitalism. Conscious capitalism for me was like coming home. It was finding my tribe of business people who believe the same way. I'm a capitalist. I'm not ashamed to be one, but I think capitalism rightfully probably has gotten a bad rap because we don't always do the right thing. Conscious capitalism is pretty simple. And the book I wrote, The ABCs of Conscious Capitalism for Kids, some of my colleagues also call it The ABCs of Conscious Capitalism for Dummies, because I wrote it that way. I was learning as well, but conscious capitalism is simple. It's just about doing business differently, caring about people, caring about the planet. So conscious capitalism believes that business is the single most powerful force on our planet. So how we use it or misuse it is important. I believe in elevating humanity and the planet through business.
Beautiful.
So I am committed to it. I think companies who are doing it are not just doing the right thing, but their business is better. So I'm here to tell everyone that conscious capitalism is not just the right thing to do, it also creates a more successful business model because of all of the things that conscious capitalists and conscious companies do and believe. So I am committed to it. I'm committed to all organizations who are trying to make the world better through business. For example, B Corps, and we've talked about that. I think they are really important, and we work with our clients at Wise Partners, many of them on that journey to becoming a good company, and that pinnacle is a B Corp.
So it's a perfect segue because I want to, this conversation is really deep down. I want to understand what you do. What is your expertise? What, people call you for, and make it very simple for us, like almost on a daily basis. What are your skills that you're being called for?
Okay, good question. First of all, I believe skill is important. I say that I am an IQ, EQ, and LQ business merchant. I think they're all three important. I start with IQ because I'm here to tell everyone that you're not going to be good at your business unless you know your business. So you have to first commit to that. I've worked hard. I believe in constant learning. I'm a pretty curious person. I think our industry, just like all others, is always evolving. The fashion industry is. I think IQ is the first thing. You gotta commit to learning and knowing your business. However, I think that next one, EQ, that's that soft skill part. You need those hard skills, as you are so good at telling us, and you are right. We have to really believe that hard and soft skills together are what make a great business leader. EQ is emotional intelligence, and I think it starts with empathy. Empathy is an important skill. I kind of believe that as women, we maybe have it a little bit more inherently, but I don't believe it is a female-only skill, EQ. I believe all humans can develop empathy, just like all humans and business leaders can improve their business acumen. Absolutely. The last one, though, is the secret sauce, I think, the LQ, listening, that listening quotient. I think maybe one of the reasons I have been successful is I realized, maybe because I failed early on not to listen well, that listening is an important skill. I think listening to hear, not just to get ready to talk again, is critical. So that listening skill for a business leader or anybody, wherever you are in your career, transitioning up, being able to listen actively and really hear what people are saying is so important. I say, one of the things that baffles me, our colleges and universities teach so many courses on how to speak, how to give presentations. We don't offer any or very, very few courses in business on how to listen well. And I think it's a critical skill.
Absolutely agree. It's maybe one of my the skills I've been working on the most in the past 2 years. And I think it's reaping so many benefits because, by the way, if you just pay attention, people will tell you everything, which
true.
You don't need
very true
to think too much. They will tell you everything, even if you leave a little bit more pause. Then nobody likes silence, so they will tell even more. So it's I mean, as a recruiter, I need to hear people. Fantastic. And tell us a little bit, how do you help at Wise Partners? How do you help companies go into B Corps or conscious capital?
Sure. We're a small consulting company. You know, we founded the company 3 years ago. All three of us have sat in the C-suite at least twice. We've all probably been through almost all of the challenges, the day-to-day business conflicts, obstacles, as well as opportunities that our clients have been through. We are small. When you hire us, you get us. People hire us because they either have a problem that they need to solve and they need help to do it, and they haven't been able to do it, or they have an opportunity. And sometimes, ironically, and as strange as it might sound, they hire us because they have both a problem and an opportunity at the same time. We bring a set of soft skills because we are women, but we are very, very ecumenical. We don't just work with female-owned businesses. However, we are definitely committed to helping companies that are on the road to doing things better, both financially and with a social responsible lens. I am, and my partners are as well. We believe we're at the intersection of helping our clients be profitable and have purpose. That purpose and profit thing for mid-market companies in the fashion industry is a challenging one. I believe in conscious capitalism, but you cannot help anybody. Companies have to be profitable first. So we pretty much get into the weeds with them. When you hire wise partners, you get us. We're the antidote, we kind of say, to some of the really big companies, where when you hire them, you get the big guys like us. We come in, they come in, and then they go away. Sorry, I dropped my earbud. See, this is why I get excited. So when you hire wise, you get us, and we have a lot of people, third parties, that help us do our job, but we are committed to being there and working directly with our clients because we think a personal relationship is so important.
So you talked about soft skills. What are your soft skills, you specifically, Laura? Because I mean, I would say bluntly, the first one might be leadership, but tell me what you think your soft skills are.
I think I am a collaborative and creative leader. I think that you have to lead people. I actually believe the best way to lead people is to not just tell them, but to show them. In prepping for this, I thought about my grandfather was a carpenter, and my grandfather had this expression. I was trying to find it the other day. You know, any jackass can tear down a barn, but it takes a carpenter to build one. I kind of believe, I really believe that. I believe we have to not just tell our clients or anybody. If you're going to help somebody in a company, we show them how to do it. So that how, I believe how you do anything is everything. When you get down to it, it's so critical. So we work with our clients, and I think maybe my superpower is that ability to combine the showing and the teaching. I think modeling and how we model and how we help them create a roadmap is by getting in there with them and doing it. I think there's no substitute for that.
I agree. And it's very well put. I think, you know, and would you say also that you're very adaptable? Because, you know, the scope of clients or size of companies that you're very adaptable to any business. I think that there's something very not chameleon about you, but that, you know, I could see you, of course, at Ralph Lauren and Burberry, but I could see you with a smaller company. I see you now at Pachamama, you know, like I can see you in very different environments.
Well, that's a compliment. I'll take it that way. And I've had to work at that. I believe perhaps the last 18 months have taught me even more. It's taught all of us. If you don't adapt, you will not make it. So learning how to adapt and evolve. You know, I like to say that this is about the evolution, but there's a little bit of revolution involved as well. I think we're at a point in business, and certainly that's why I'm a conscious capitalist. I think that we have a role to play I believe that I am resilient. I believe resilience is a skill that you can learn. It's like a muscle. You have to practice it. Again, I believe in that.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for just doing it and really practicing how to be an adaptable person in the business world and how to be resilient. We've all come through something really incredibly difficult past 18 months. And I hope it's taught us that we do need each other. We are not just dependent, we are interdependent.
Beautiful. Amazing. So my third big question, because, I have this, what you do, how you do it, but why do you do it? And that purpose. I know you're on a mission to change, but why is it for you so personal? Is it that realization that we're in finite resource? What triggered it for you that you want to share it for your children, or is there something, you want to leave the planet in a better place? What drives that?
All of those things, everything you've just said plays a role. But I am not only a businesswoman, I've been doing this for over 35 years. I'm at a different point. I think, first of all, I do it for my children and my grandchildren. I wrote the ABCs of Conscious Capitalism for kids, primarily for my grandchildren. I believe children, by the way, are stakeholders. When we talk about where business and who business touches, children are our future employees. They are also customers. I think that they're future customers. I believe that I have a role and a legacy and a responsibility to create a better business world for them. I would say there are key points. We all have, I think, these keystone moments, these things that happen to us, and at the time we may not realize it. I would say that one of the things that did it for me in connecting the dots here on what we have to do in business was actually going to the Amazon rainforest. I got to do that 2 years ago, and it shaped my business decisions. And if you had told me that it would, I probably would have said, no, they don't have anything to do with each other, but they are actually very connected. I believe we have to think about, the emotional side and connecting our head and our hearts together is the only way. Talking about conscious capitalism, there are 4 pillars, and you and I have talked about them. I believe in being a loving leader, and leadership is a huge part of, is a pillar. I believe in a higher purpose. If we don't have a higher purpose in business, I don't believe business is just about making money. It has to be more than that. I believe in creating a culture of business. That's that how. And last, stakeholders. Stakeholders are everybody. And by the way, stakeholders in a conscious company include the planet, it includes our environment. So it's kind of important. I was thinking about how I would just really make this simple. And it's kind of like, know what you're doing. That's leadership. Know how to do it. That's culture. Know why you're doing it. That's your higher purpose. And know who you're doing it for. That's like the stakeholders. So conscious capitalism and all good businesses think about all 4 of those things.
So maybe, Laura, would you say that it's almost a philosophy of business? It's like maybe a philosophy of how you do business or why you do business, right? It's
absolutely
kind of how a business or
it is. It is a business method, movement, philosophy. It is really simple, but when you do business, it's never simple. You have to just, start. I will tell you that with our clients, they are on every one of our clients is in a different level on their journey to that intersection of profit and purpose. We have 2 things we say to everybody. 1, just start somewhere. On that road to being a socially responsible company or conscious company, nobody's perfect. So just start somewhere, pick a place, start. Second one is progress over perfection. We have clients who go, no, 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 I cannot launch my site because everything isn't perfect yet. We haven't figured everything out. Just start and make progress. We are often too hard on ourselves and our companies. I think we definitely have to kind of take a lesson from the successful companies right now. They're not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
They fail fast. You will not be innovative if you don't experiment. And when you experiment, sometimes you fail. But you have to do that in order to get to the next level. Telling our young business leaders that they have to be perfect is not a good thing.
Oh my God. I had the shiver, because it's true that it was that old school, until it's perfect, don't show it to me. And I think, being able to relax and to explore and to find, and it's basically, it's the growth mindset, right? It's the growth mindset. If you think, it's perfect, then there's no way up and there's no growth. So
true.
Okay, so I want to continue into the conscious capitalism, because I did highlight some of your books, and I want to know a little bit more about one quick question I want, because when I do interviews, I always want to remember the person. And when I interview many people, like sometimes I'm like, oh, but she was in marketing, and like remembering. So what was one thing, I don't know, fun or unique, or that that I could remember you with, that could go in my long-term memory, that only you have done?
I'm not sure I'm the only one who does it, but I can tell you that since I came back from the Amazon rainforest, I certainly reconnected with nature. And during the lockdown, I live in a place in Southern California where I can go out. So if you want to think of me as going up to trees and hugging them. I am actually a tree hugger sometimes. Oh. I believe that trees are amazing. So I love trees. I may not always hug them, but I spend a lot of time now just appreciating the beauty of nature. So yeah, I'm one of those crazy tree huggers.
We have the same thing. I love trees. I like to hug them in Central Park first, like in front of everybody. I don't care. I run and I go hug tree. But also I will send you one of my little videos, because I film trees. I describe them. I have a girlfriend said, oh, you should think I'm like the little David Attenborough of trees. I have a tree. And when I was young, I'll tell you something, I always imagined myself as a tree. So I was imagining myself, and I was like, that I would not be able to move. And, it had the wind and the birds come to me. And long story short. So I'm a tree lover too. So from one tree lover.
There you go. Trees are good.
This is how I, once I know something personal, I think it makes it easier to connect. And, so of course it's Laura and Conscious Capitalism and, Ralph Lauren, Burberry behind you, and Wise Partners. But now it's Laura, also the tree hugger. So fantastic. So one portion is loving leadership, because we talk a lot about, leadership. What is the difference between leadership and loving leadership? I mean, because just the love word in business seems to be very,
Exactly. Well, I say that when I talk about loving leadership, it's like, putting the word loving as an adjective in front of leadership for many companies would be, I don't think so. However, I believe we have to love our companies and love our employees and love what we do. So if you're going to be a really good leader and you're going to inspire and you're going to connect with all of your stakeholders, you have to love them. You have to be able to be a leader that has all of those skills that include soft skills. I don't think that you can create a caring, successful company. And let me add that loving leadership today, I believe, is so important, because young people especially are very aware, and our social media is creating a situation for every business and every leader. If you don't step up and really embrace everything about your company and love every part about it, including your people and how you treat them, it gets back to that whole authentic thing. And on social media today, it is as easy for us to find out, that you're not a loving leader. I don't believe in shaming, by the way. I take the position that the best way to market and the best way to talk about how we improve it is to celebrate success and talk about the good things. But I believe that loving leadership is important because of the opposite. If it's not loving leadership, it's the wrong kind of leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very true. And like, would you give me an example of how maybe you suggested a leader to go into loving leadership? Is there something, an example that somebody, who came, who's not amazing, super loving, and that you managed to tilt in the right direction?
Well, we had a client, and they're still a client that we meet with on a quarterly basis. I believe they were kind of the opinion that the design team didn't need to talk to the rest of the organization. I think it's really important for us in the fashion industry, especially, to appreciate that dynamic between the people who design the product and the people who sell the product. So there was a moment when we went off site and went to dinner one night. Maybe we had a few drinks, and maybe that made it a little bit easier. And I'll be the first to admit that sometimes you need to get out of the office into another kind of framework to really connect with your clients. And I'm not against that. And we had to really make this founder, who was a partner with another founder, realize that their relationship between how they treated their designers and their design team and their sales team were two very different dynamics, and that they were sometimes very unloving. They didn't exhibit kindness. For me, loving leadership is kind leadership. So you have to really think about, every day, just when in doubt, be kind to everyone. So loving leadership is about treating everybody that way. I would also say loving leadership is about real equity instead of equality. In my book, the E is equality versus equity. And I got a quote from a great author. First of all, equity is the more important thing. It's not about everybody getting the same. Equity is about everybody getting what they need. And that, for me, is what a loving leader does.
Laura, it's very interesting because each time I've had a conversation with you, you have allowed me to think of a word in a new way or a different way. I mean, really, you have ideas, and I think, I read and everything, but you've offered a new perspective on words or concepts each time I've had a conversation with you. So I want to thank you for that, because it's true that equity, the way you framed it, is what people need. It might not be equal, and having two children, very different. It's not what's giving them the same. It's giving them what they need. So I totally relate to that. Okay, I wanted to offer anybody in the attendees to please ask question. You can put your question in the chat. You can raise your hand and ask. Obviously, yes, as you see Laura's there, you can put it anywhere you want to, just raise your hand, or because and we've had some comments. Also, just listen to Rebecca Henderson, Harvard professor and author of Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. Podcast is her LinkedIn profile. Total Tree Hugger, so another, loving these ladies, thank you. And will there be a recording? And yes, there will be. So another one, the caring culture, or is there one that you want to share specifically, because there's all the letters. Positive purpose.
Yes. Well, positive purpose is like the underpinning. So it's kind of like, it goes back to, you've got to know why you're doing whatever you're doing in business. I think a company's purpose, and it's defined by the boss, the leader, the CEO, the founder, whatever. Your purpose has got to be more than just making money. You could call conscious capitalism stakeholder capitalism, which is a lot of people are calling it that, because of those four pillars of conscious capitalism: leadership, culture, purpose, and stakeholders. Thinking about it, the stakeholder part is the most important in terms of connecting and creating. And if you're in the fashion industry, I don't want to speak for any other, although I think I can, the customer is the most critical stakeholder if you want to be a successful brand. The fashion industry has come face to face with that. And in the last 18 months, the customer and how they connect and how they decide what they're going to buy. I've been in the fashion industry such a long time that it used to be, when I started, we could tell the customer, you got to wear purple, the skirt this year is this length, and you will buy what we tell you to buy. And Vogue magazine and all these magazines were the epitome of telling everybody what they needed to have as a customer. That's all changed. My boss at Burberry, and she was a wonderful lady from New York, I'll never forget, she said to me, "Laura, it's all changed. The street influences the couture now." And she was right, and now the customer is in the driver's seat completely. Wait, so it used to be.
How many years ago did she tell you that? Because that was very.
She was prescient. She told me that over a decade ago, 15 years ago. And she was so right. And she's gotten even more correct, because right now the customer tells us. So we used to tell the customer, and I don't think it's just fashion. So anybody out there, if you're in the business of business, your customer is everything. So connecting with them, they're your key stakeholder. Your second most important is your employee.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, I think that sometimes even the employee is close to being also your most important customer.
Absolutely. Because your employee is the closest to the customer. In most scenarios, certainly in fashion, if your employees don't believe in the product or you don't treat them well in the fashion, it's all over.
Laura, I wrote an article like 3 years ago, because when I started doing business 15 years ago, I was asked to hire people who could do the job. 8 years ago, there was, or 10 years ago, there was a whole movement of people who could do the job and look the part in the fashion industry. Remember? And I called it the era of the ambassador. You had to look proper, or you had to look cool, or whatever. But one of the thing that happened is 3 years ago, and it was more, a younger population who was like, I want purpose. And I coined it the hiring of believers. And I say that today, you have to believe in the business. If people want to believe in your business or not, I'm not going to put a chain smoker at Lululemon or Nike. I'm not going to put a vegan person working at McDonald's, but I won't put somebody who, I have candidates who are so into sustainable, they would tell me, I'm not working for this brand or this brand or that brand. And, they will rather not have that job or be paid. I mean, ideally the same, but, to work in industries that they believe in, or for people that they believe in, or for brands that are doing the right thing. And I think we're entering the era of the believer. And that's why my big, mission in life is to allow, as a recruiter, not people to be seen just for their skills or the brands they've been working for, but their purpose. If you can articulate today your purpose, you're becoming very attractive for others. I think one of the things that is very magnetic is somebody who knows what they believe in and what they want. And if that thing is good, then it's even better, I mean, that can be the shadow side where it's very not so great, but people who know what they want, they're very magnetic because they have very strong boundaries, and you're like, oh, I want that too. And so it's very appealing, and having a strong purpose today is huge. So we have questions. Okay, so I love this conversation. Thank you. Very inspiring. I'm a longtime small retailer and now pivoting into creating an online marketplace. So Robin, thank you. We want to please write down the website of where you are. Sarah Sakanada. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for sharing your background. Love the point about how stakeholders include people and planet. I'm currently exploring a project and would love to know what the steps are to create a B Corp from my startup. she started this year?
Well, okay, this will probably take more than this conversation. Let me say that please feel free to reach out to me. And after this, if you provide, I think we have a link to Wise Partners. You can reach out that way. You can send me an email, and I commit to perhaps we should have a conversation. It is not, it's not easy, but it's not unbelievably difficult. And that journey to becoming a certified B Corp is like anything. It will help you, even if you don't become a certified B Corp, to learn about, you know, all those kind of things that'll help you become a conscious company. But I would love to help you, and I can send you some collateral, and I can actually perhaps get you to connect with some people in the B Corp movement, the B Lab movement. I know several of them who would be delighted to speak with you. So let's talk later.
Fantastic. And I've put your website and your bio and the email. So thank you. Joël is saying the meaning of investir is as wearing the clothes of the team. That's very nice and very poetic. Thank you, Joël. So if anybody has questions, please do. We have still a few minutes. Laura, you're contagiously positive, driven, have the energy, and you hug trees, which, you know, now I understand where your energy comes, because it comes from Mother Nature, that you can't beat any more of that energy. So once you've known to, you know, get cuddled by trees, because that's the trick, you know, when you hug a tree, it's you start to understanding that the tree hugs you and that nature hugs you, and that's where it feels so super. What are the challenging things? Because I want to know, what is the reality of B Corp? You know, when the first moment I talked to you, is it really tedious to get into the B Corp? Is there a lot of paperwork? And what does B Corp really mean for others? I mean, when, you know, if I had B Corp, which, you know, thanks to you, we're planning the minute we're profitable, touch wood, we are going into B Corp. But, you know, what does it mean to be B Corp, and how difficult it is to become one? Or not?
It's a journey. It's going to take a while, but they are supportive. They will provide support. The B Lab provides the support for companies who want to go through that process of becoming a B Corp and be accredited. The upside, the work is there, but if you're going through the effort of becoming a conscious company or a socially responsible company or a triple bottom line company, whatever you call it, if that is your goal as the founder of a company, then the B Corp, actually the infrastructure and the assessment, the collateral gives you a lot of tools that, whether you actually become a B Corp or not, are going to help you know how to frame your business strategy. And I will add that from a purely sales and marketing and branding perspective, if you are a B Corp, you are then involved in a community of other like-minded companies, and they do a great deal to support each other in that community. The B Corp community is vast. It's not just fashion brands, it's all sorts of brands, from Ben and Jerry's to Patagonia to Eileen Fisher, but there are a lot of B Corps out there. Banks are now B Corps. There are now some resorts. So it gives you a community of other business leaders who get together, and quite honestly, sometimes they support each other. I'll introduce a word. It's called co-opetition. Co-opetition is a word I just found out about, so in full disclosure, but thinking differently for the future. Think about, instead of looking at everybody out there as either your competition and fear them, or they're your collaborator and you're going to cooperate. We have instances now where you've got that people you thought were your competition, you're collaborating with. Think of Nike and Adidas. They've done a collaboration. It is now a world where B Corps, for example, they sometimes work together in collaboration in order to win more clients for everybody. I like to think that a socially responsible, conscious business creates a win-win-win. Everybody wins. And when all stakeholders win, I think the business naturally is more successful. And by successful, I mean profitable. But you have to have growth and profits. So just start. I would encourage anyone listening, if you want to think about being a B Corp, just start having a conversation. And I certainly am ready, willing, and able to talk to anyone if it will be helpful.
Okay, fantastic. What is the best question that people ask you? What is the question you prefer to answer?
Probably, it may not be just one, but it is really asking people in business, especially, and whether you're going through your career transition and need your help, clarity. I love, first of all, let me give you a little bit of a shout out. The word clarity for me is a really good word for all of us to think about wherever we are in our business and whatever one of those things you're thinking about, whether it's leadership, clear purpose. It's probably the why question. It is. And I will tell you that I believe my role now as a consultant and as someone who has been around, I think it's part of my role to share my mic. First, I think that's why I'm doing this webinar. I think it's important. And I think it's important for us who have the ability to share our mic with people who aren't as fortunate. We need to get the voices of a lot of different people on the stage right now or at the table. I would also add that I think it's really important for me not just to be the sage on the stage anymore. As consultants, we are really the guides on the side. And if you're a really good consultant, you're a good guide for that company or that founder or that client to make them more successful. So as we all start thinking about how we can do more, again, it comes back to why you're doing what you're doing, and realizing that we all need each other, that dependent and interdependent, it's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because in the method, in the course I give to get clarity, there's one quote that I love, and that I would like to share is this gentleman who said, when I hire people, I take IQ, I'll take PQ and CQ over IQ anytime. And you start with IQ and EQ and LQ. But so PQ is passion quotient. He wants people who are passionate. He wants people who want to put their heart and soul into a project, So that's when he hires somebody, he'd rather have the one who's really, energized by the idea and a believer of the project. So which you embody so well. And CQ is the curiosity. And he says the curiosity is that because the world is changing so much that you have to be curious of the new options, new possibilities, new answers, new ways of doing things. And I think that's also, what I feel whenever I've had a conversation with you. I mean, you have the IQ, so I'm not, it's not that we're comparing them, but you have also that passion quotient and that curiosity quotient of saying, yeah, let's look at it together. I've had a conversation with you, and I'm very excited that Sarah will be having a conversation with you where we had a conversation about B Corps, and you didn't tell me, oh, this is what you have to do, and this is step 1 and step 2. It's like, okay, how are we looking at what's in it for you? There was like this whole, curiosity about the process for me or for Sur Mesure. And you were not giving me answers. And I thought it was really very, it was listening, but it was more, you were curious about knowing about what I was doing. And I think it feels good. It feels really good when people are like, oh, tell me more. Well, why did, tell me more. And that is a very nice feeling. So we have Sophie Morris, who's asking, thank you for the very inspiring conversation. On a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being the max, where are corporate or leaders today on the way to loving leadership?
Oh, wow. Okay, good question. Time for honesty now. I think we're making progress. I think as we all reemerge from what's happened the last 18 months, I am cautiously optimistic that more and more leaders and heads of companies are going to embrace loving leadership and a caring culture and having a higher purpose and caring about stakeholders. I think, but if I had to say what I think is the most important right now for anyone listening and all of us, the thing I am also committed to, and God has asked me, you know, what at the end of the day is my legacy and what am I passionate about? It's education. I think if we don't educate each other, so what we're doing today on this webinar, thank you, it's fantastic. We have to educate each other, and we really have to start educating consumers and customers. So loving leadership starts, I think, by having caring founders and all of that. But I believe that if consumers and customers vote, and they can, we will get to a tipping point faster where leadership knows that it has to be more loving and caring and transparent and authentic and really genuinely creating a conscious, you know, business where everybody wins. We're not there yet, but I'm not giving up. I think we're moving in the right direction. Maybe I would take a phrase from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The moral arc of the universe is long, but I believe it's moving in the right direction. So we can't give up. Everybody listening, don't give up. It's going to happen.
Well, like if on that note, you were not getting your dose of energy, I don't know what would do it, right? Like, I think, you know, that's, you know, that's very interesting. And you know, I had Anita Sanchez on a webinar previously, and I had connected her actually on LinkedIn because the story was, you know, she wrote that book, The Four Gifts of Modern Wisdom. And you know, I had sometimes lost a bit of hope in the fashion industry because it is such an industry that was based on exclusivity. You know, you're not skinny enough, you're not rich enough, you're not, you know, that velvet right mindset of specifically maybe in the luxury industry, and which is changing, thankfully. But, you know, sometimes I pass in front of a store and I feel the AC blasting. I mean, in New York, you know, from there, and I'm thinking just that planet, you know, like we don't have to be in an ice cube going there. We don't need to do that much packaging around something. There's so many little things that, you know, could be. And so I would love to know that, you know, that fashion industry, which by the way is the second most polluting industry in the world, but one of also a beautiful industry that allows us to you know, adorn ourselves, be walking beautifully in the streets or whatever, that industry needs a lot of loving and caring by the new generations. And yeah,
absolutely. And I think they're voting and they're telling us, and I believe that we are going to be able to have a more caring culture. The fashion industry is going to have to start fixing itself. I'm part of committees. I think maybe a lot of people on here are committed to doing the same thing. We are what we wear. So we're now getting into the last frontier, which is fashion, because we now care about what we put in our bodies and what we put on our bodies. We now have to care what we wear, because when you begin to realize the impact of putting on a t-shirt that costs $10, you have to begin to say to yourself, if a t-shirt costs $10 when I buy it at the store, there is a connect the dots on who got paid what to make it, what kind of chemicals were used in the raw material. And here again, it involves education. I am on several committees, including one with the Council of Fashion Designers of America, CFDA. They are committed. We are all committed. We just have to do it faster, and we have to do it together. famous, fabulous African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. We all have to do this together.
I agree. I was thinking that, you know, we should have I was thinking that in my closet, that sometimes I look at clothes and it's how many times I've worn it. And when I buy a clothes, I think, well, you better wear that one at least 100 times. If not, you're not buying it, you know, because that's also, you know, the instant purchase. And so I have to, you know, bite my fingers and like, okay, sorry, I'm out of here. But, you know, because that's also the idea that, you know, the dirty secret of the fashion is that it's built on desire. So if there's a new collection, of course you want it, you know, if I put a nice meal in front of you, of course, you know, want it. Like that's, you know, if we create the desire, then we ask people to resist. Well, that's not fair. You know, if I'm belly dancing in front of you. So, you know, it's the consumer, and I think we've talked about it. I think, you know, this young generation, sometimes I call them baby Yodas because they're more wise than what we were sometimes.
I agree.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Laura. I don't know if there's any additional question, but this webinar, I'm going to pin it in the list, because any day I would wake up not feeling at the 100% of my energy level, I know I can just put your voice on, and that will be better than putting, you know, a song to dance on. I was like, there we go. So I wanted to thank you, Laura. I wanted to thank you for this book, which, by the way, is absolutely not for kids. The ABC of Conscious Capitalism for kids and for adults, because it was amazing for me. I was like, well, if kids, you know, that money matters, I think it's really important. I've left it in my home for my children to read it and understand. Is there another documentary or good resource or that you would suggest for people who want to know a little bit more? Dive into that.
Well, Conscious Capitalism as a movement, I'll send a link to you that you can share with everyone, because it's a few basic, you know, tenets of conscious capitalism and how you can do it. You can either do it on a small level or a big level. There are chapters of conscious capitalism in all the big cities in the United States. So at the very least, if you know, connect with a chapter of conscious capitalism, I have at least one of my fellow Conscious Capitalism San Diego members on this call. She's awesome. So thank you. And I think conscious capitalism is a great movement. And for the fashion industry, it will help you meet another group of like-minded fashion business executives.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Laura. We'll put it on also this webinar on LinkedIn, because so that the rest of the fashion community can have a look at it. Thank you again. Thank you everyone for attending. It's been, you know, always so nice to see familiar names, and also thank you, Laura. Thank you. Thank you. And off we go to do the work and becoming all loving leaders.
Thank you.
You're welcome.